ESP.bet. Watch and bet live.
This is episode 23 of Narrative Wake. And this one, featuring me, Thorin, usual host, and usual co-host, Kelsey Moser. Still not replacing her. I know in a way you probably think I did because I made another show with someone else who... Actually, what's mad is you're doing that classic thing, Kelsey, where it's like, there's always a silver lining. Because I've heard a lot of people wreck Emily and be like, she's not confident enough, not good enough speaking. But now they just say, at least she's better than Kelsey. So
exactly.
You are serving a very useful role in this community, as harsh as that may seem. And again, I have told you, I do in many ways very much appreciate that. When it was on Summon and Insight, there used to be loads of comments that were like, I wish that fucking guy wasn't hosting it. Now they all just say, get another person, guy who I used to hate. So again, you're playing that role to a T. You are the villain in many ways, the heel of this motherfucker. But here's the thing though, since this episode is going to be about the LPL, I was trying to think, right, obviously I'm not really going to do this, but I was trying to think of if I could have opened the episode and made a joke that, this had a new name and it was an LPL only show, because obviously when I did my LCK show, I purposely didn't tell Emily what the name of the show was because the name of the show is just called League's Next World Champion because it's about LCK. So, the joke's obvious there. I mean, it's pretty reasonable. I mean, they have literally won all of them except for the one where they got fluke beaten by a team from Taiwan, and we haven't seen anyone from Taiwan in the finals recently. So, pretty reasonable. So I was trying to think what we could call an LPL-themed episode. Obviously we're not, but if we imagined that this was a show like that, what would a fitting name for an LPL one be? Because I think it would be something like, not as bad as you think, but probably still will let you down or something like that, What would an LPL-themed show be? Because remember, the premise has to be like, it has to sort of capture the essence of the LPL. Because here's the thing. My problem with the LPL is that too many of the people who follow it know that Westerners, for some bizarre reason, hate it. And so, but for a logical reason, if they're going to watch something Asian, they're going to watch LCK generally. So therefore, they just think, well, why would I watch it? And so, unfortunately, I notice a lot of you would just turn to the dark side and you've bought into the idea haha, yeah, but it's all memes and hilarious games. And every time I just want to be like, we are all just pretending and feeding into the mental delusion of Western fans that somehow the LPL's more of a clown fiesta than their region, right? We're all going to buy into that and pretend that that's a real thing and continue to let them imagine that NA teams have better macro than teams in LPL. We're just going to keep doing that, are we? Is that it?
It really depends because I think the low point for the LPL and macro is really...
They have way more teams.
Really low.
They have way more teams.
But they have more teams that bring down the top teams to that point as well.
Kelsey, come on. This is what they always do. They always take fucking TSM and Cloud9 and then compare them to everyone in every other region.
Come on.
The worst team in the NLCS.
I don't think TSM and Cloud9 have good macro. I mean, it depends. Okay, so if you just use a broad term like macro, then you're not going to get anywhere having this discussion. I think there are legitimately things that the LPL does better macro-wise than Western teams, and there are legitimately things that certain Western teams do better than LPL teams.
Okay.
For example, I think that LPL teams, on average, understand team play and jungle invades and working around the jungler better than most North American teams or European teams. That's a very simple early game macro point that I think is consistently better in the LPL region.
Yes, that is one thing I will say about the LPL that I will criticize, is that it is season 8 and they still are sort of just warming up to the idea of having junglers. They're sort of you know what, that guy, I think it's time we let him work with the team. You don't have to just place wards and jump around wherever you want. Oh, he's in my lane, cool, right? Are we going in? Are we going for this? Are we going for... Oh, fuck no, he's just doing a drive-by. Okay, right, we're back again. Okay, so obviously our guest for this episode, I'll introduce you, Raz, okay, is going to be Raz, a.k.a. Razzleplasm, a.k.a. Barento something or other. I forget the last part. Razzleplasm's just a better name, mate. Just change your name by deed, Paul, like Ocho Cinco did. It's better. It's a sick name. I think it's good.
I just simplified it every single step of the way. It was Brento, actually, Razzleplasm is probably more complicated than Barento, I'm not going to lie. And then Raz just came about because I don't want people calling me a Razzleplasm on broadcast. That'd make things awkward incredibly quickly. So, hey, how's it going?
Okay. Right. So what were you going to jump in on there? You were going to say something along the lines of what Kelsey had started there, that can of worms that she had opened.
My thing is that literally the lowest common denominators in both regions, like you could tell the mindset being set there. Like for instance, if you go to North America, like the worst teams will still try and play macro in terms of like hitting objectives. Like, oh, we'll try and take this tower. We'll try and move to the next objective. Oh, we fucked up. God damn it. And you look to the LPL teams, lowest common denominators, literally just fight on cooldown. Like that's the best. So that's why I appreciate the LPL a lot more, is that they understand their weakness and they say, fuck that. Like, they will just fight you and they'll just create its own meta. That's why every single time you see LGD fight X, Y, or Z, you're just like, well, I know exactly what I'm going to be coming in for, and maybe they can take a win.
No, I like that, because that's actually a pretty good... Because what's funny is, by the way, people will think initially you were slamming them for that, but actually it gives you a better chance to win. Like, I agree. The thing that has tilted me the most watching the Western regions, especially NALCS, where obviously, you know, because there's just so many fans there, it naturally sort of gets a boost where, you know, games that are bad but exciting get labelled as good, you know, like, oh, what a thrilling game. It's like, I have gotten so sick of seeing the bottom NALCS teams like, oh, well, we're losing the game, just like we have been for the last 15 games, time to set up for the Baron. And I'm like, what do you mean set up for the Baron? You mean just go to the Baron and fucking die? Because at this point, you don't know what else to do in the game, and somehow you still think it's season 2, and if you get that Baron, it like powers your whole team up or something. Like, it doesn't do any of that shit. You're just going to lose the game, but I at least appreciate that you sort of, it's sort of like a wrestling guy, you know, the jobber who's supposed to get beaten. You at least understand that you're supposed to run into this clothesline and just fucking go down. Like, that's the NLCS. Whereas the difference is, I guess in LPL, even the jobber just starts wildly like swinging towards the face, and he's like, "Oh, what the fuck are you doing? I'm supposed to win this match." He's like, "Nope, that's not. I didn't get that memo." just going crazy.
Yeah, I start tearing my hair out every single time I watch a Baron set up. Like that's mostly like, and this is like purely just like the low tier teams going at each other. Like if I'm looking at North American LCS, even European LCS, it just comes down to a point where they set up for Baron, they have a lead, and you're like, okay, great. And this is like NIP, exactly NIP, where you're just like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready, NIP. Europe is great in terms of macro. And then they just like 10 minutes of not doing anything. And you're like, holy shit, please. Jingdong would have just immediately tried to start for a Baron just for a fight. They just want a team fight. They at least understand that concept. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Right, Kelsey, based on Worlds, the best team in LPL should be Royal Never Give Up, RNG. But I saw during their first game in the LPL that they are still the quintessential Chinese team, because first of all, don't bother playing your superstar player. Secondly, have 3 players who are backups at your superstar player's position and pretend as though you actually plan to give them all playing time and this is a real rotation. Like, what's going on? Is Uzi just so baller now? He's like, I don't play at the beginning of seasons. Get at me at the end. I'll be ready at the end. I'll be in my trailer. Like, why is RNG not playing Uzi?
I mean, you kind of feel like that because Clearlove does the same thing, right? He's done this consistently 3 years in a row now, where he's just, I'm going to take an extra long vacation. It's fine, guys. Like, the first time it didn't work out so well, because they said, this Fire Lily guy, he's not good. You have to come back.
He's not cutting it.
You have to come back. But it worked out a little bit better the second year, and I think it's going to work out yet still better this year. I think that UZI has complained about wrist issues since 2015, and within the LPL you kind of take health problems with a grain of salt anyway, but so to that end they've kind of gone out of their way to say, oh, these are the hospital records.
No, to be fair, that is sort of like another element of the sort of WWE component of the LPL. It's always like, oh my god, wait a minute, he's supposed to be in hospital, he's coming to the ring, like what the fuck is this? Like, you know, like, come on. How bad could it be if he's literally playing like game 5 of a game now? Like, he's not on his deathbed, is he? Come on. So okay, are any of the players who are the backup AD carries for RG good?
So a lot of people are really talking about Abel, who, like, his backstory going into this is really sick because Faker literally accused him of scripting on stream because he tilted him so much.
Like, that is fucking baller. Like, if I was him, have you ever seen this classic thing where sometimes people who are very controversial figures, like, it's like it's now quite a famous trend. What you do is if you write a book, you purposely put all the bad reviews of yourself on the back, you know, like, this guy's a fucking white nationalist, you know, some crazy line like that. And the whole point is what you do in there is you're poking fun at the fact that, like, you know, obviously I'm not, but I'm just, you know, I've got people so riled up. If he ever wrote some sort of a book or anything, if you can just have like, this fucker's scripting Faker, like, that is pretty straight fire. If you've got that, that's baller, I can't even lie.
So, and then when RNG signed him, they had to make a special statement saying, we can verify that he doesn't script. We brought him in-house. We tested him, all this other shit. So the first game was not set up well. They didn't play very well around mid-jungle at all. And then Orianna kind of just went bottom, and they got a super early dive. So I don't think we saw much of what Abel can do yet. Also, rookies tend to have a lot of stage fright issues, but people are really excited about this guy and probably will give him some time.
I will come out and say immediately that, like, okay, so game one, that was like probably one of the worst comps you can actually run. Because if you're running a Vayne, especially even if it's like it's a good matchup, you're like, okay, it's Vayne, you'll lose the matchup, but you'll get through the lane. That's like the whole point of it. Is like you'll be able to have a even CS, you'll come out of it in team fights, and you're a fucking Vayne. That's perfect. But then you have Vayne Ryze against Orianna and like Ezreal, which both have, you're gonna get shoved in the entire laning phase. That's the whole point of it. Go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think it kind of depends because Vayne is, you can play into Ezreal all right under certain circumstances. I think the biggest issue was they had Ryze Jarvan, right? And so Orianna obviously kind of wins that matchup against Ryze, but if you have Ryze Jarvan, you can't really play Orianna into Jarvan most of the time because you just kind of get screwed repeatedly every time you overextend. And I think that they fundamentally misplayed that aspect of it, which made bottom lane super vulnerable to dives. So for me, that's like kind of the crux, not the matchups in isolation, but please continue.
Yeah, I would say that if there's like the gank pressure definitely helped in that aspect. I think if the Ryze had a little bit more of a stronger 2v2 with a jungler, that would have helped. And I think that if Karsa was a little bit more aggressive in upsetting the mid lane matchup, then it wouldn't just be Orianna shoving them the Ryze in constantly. I think that was like a bigger issue because Rookie would just hide into bottom side river so often, and that was just free tower. Even though Abel was actually getting proper trades into the Ezreal, just like condemned him into the wall and got like the third proc. So I thought Abel, under the circumstances, was playing the laning phase well, and then they were just like 2-3k gold behind before the game even mattered. And I was like, well. Oh, and they're swapping 3 people in. So we're like, 3 people in. I was like, wait a second. Yeah. They're just putting Karsa out of the game and they're putting Abel out. When really it felt like it was more the composition. So that's what it was kind of. I felt like if you put in Vayne, bring in like Azir, even, or at least just like think more about the wave clear mid lane, just to make it so your early game isn't that bad.
So as you referenced, obviously the big addition is that they have brought over Karsa from the Flash Wolves to play in LPL, which is something I wanted to see for a long time, especially because, as I alluded to before, the joke was that you didn't have that many really world-class junglers in the LPL. Like, you had some here's the weird thing. I've always said this. It's how I would describe Clearlove. There's definitely players who were labeled junglers who were really good players, but they weren't always junglers in the sense that you think of the best Korean junglers, etc. But Karsa obviously has been someone who, there's a good reason why his teams have beaten SK Telecom so many times. He really was one of the people I thought could exploit some of the Koreans, actually, and at least kind of to tie back into that analogy you gave about the LPL, like at least they gave themselves a punching chance against SKT. You know, they would make plays, they would do things early on, right? If they bring back Uzi into the lineup, they can work Karsa in, but they've already got MLXG still. Should this be the best team in the LPL?
Oh, I think going into it, I would say yes. I think by the end of the split, when they finally had like Uzi playing consistently, this should be the best LPL team. Because I was wondering if there is going to be a way for the team to upgrade, right? Especially since they were semi-finalists in Worlds. Thought that was going to be incredible. And then they bring in Karsa, which to me, I idealize like, oh, well, that's structure, that's basically consistency. Because Karsa is consistently playing well. Meanwhile, MLXG either plays incredibly well in one game or like 30, 40 minutes into the next game costs you a game. So I was like, maybe that will push MLXG and that will make him a little bit better, or at least him like thinking a lot more in the later portions of the game. And maybe Karsa becomes the nice fit, but that will be decided like come playoff time, who plays 100% of the time. I just thought it was a straight upgrade.
I was a little bit more reserved about the Karsa pickup because I feel like if you watch the way that Karsa plays on Flash Wolves, he's somewhat reliant or very good at having synergy with the support, and they tend to have much more tandem roams with support moving on priority. Whereas I feel like when I watch RNG, Ming is not really allowed to leave the lane under certain circumstances if it will cause UZI to miss this trade. So I think that that's a new setup that Karsa will have to work out
Yes.
And that Ming will have to work out with Karsa, especially when UCI comes back to the lineup. So that's where I have more of my reservations. I think that Karsa can play be a straight upgrade for sure, because let's face it, no one's criticized MLXG more than me. But I also think that it's interesting that you call Karsa consistent, because Karsa himself has described himself as a gambler. And I think we kind of saw that a little bit in his play this week and in Demacia Cup, where he was going for certain things like invades instead of helping the lanes. Like, he wasn't getting priority in lanes before invades and stuff like this. So I think that's more my hesitation with Karsa.
I think that was just in that scenario in the Demacia Cup when he was going in with invades like on the Graves jungle. I thought that was smart for the matchup rather than like more. It is a gamble regardless, but I think that was just more of a smart gamble. Like, he had an idea of what the outcome was going to be before he went for it, and ultimately, like, the idea of being a gambler is one thing because he's constantly thinking about it. So those are just like points in which he's focused in the game. But I thought my biggest criticism with MLXG was just the fact that he wasn't focused later portions, because this was during like playoff times, even finals, where he would just kind of get caught off. And I was like, was he thinking about, like, why was he walking out alone in those instances when he's playing Zach or Jarvan? So I thought that would be a good way to push him throughout the entire season. But you bring out a good point, ultimately, with Karsa, is that he's going to be in a new dynamic with the team. And I don't even know if he knows what dynamic that's going to be until Uzi finally comes onto the lineup, because Ming roamed quite a bit when Wushin was in the lineup, I believe. And then he kind of roamed with Y4 until Y4, because Y4 just played a lot of Kalista, so actually he didn't roam that much until he wasn't on Kalista, when he was on Tristana so much. But when you're on team with Uzi, then that was just when more ganks were going bot side, like early on into the game. So I wonder how that's going to be once Uzi joins the lineup.
So Kelsey, though, you explained your thought about the junglers, but are you actually hyped about this team? Because when I saw this lineup, I actually thought, like, I mean, we don't know yet how the Korean teams will shake out, but I think this is like a potential world champion team.
I think it's definitely a good lineup. I'm a little bit more concerned about the coaching staff, because I know a lot of people like Kesman, but I think it has to do with his personality more than anything. And if you look at his track record, he's been in a lot of interesting situations. That's basically all I'm going to say, with like the IMA controversy and to an extent the CJ controversy.
Yeah, so, he's a survivor. He keeps fucking going. Now he's here again. They still haven't got rid of this guy, so I like that.
But also, it's interesting that they would pick him up after IMA didn't really improve at all last year, is kind of my issue. And so you have like Firefox, who was the assistant to Kesman, coming over to RNG, and then this team improves, and then IMA kind of stagnates. So to me, it was an interesting decision. Usually I would say they know more about stuff than I do, but this is the LPL, and there have been a lot of weird decisions in general. The thing about Hart is that there have been more specific criticisms about him that are not like just conjecture, but that he has stage fright, which you usually think about stage fright in terms of players. Yeah. But he has like legit stage fright where he forgets like pick ban logic and stuff like this.
Maybe he should just appear like fucking Supreme Leader Snork as like a hologram from some secure location or something, you know? What the hell? I've never heard of that. What happened with the pick ban? Nerves got to me. What do you mean? I said Jarvan. I meant to say Lee Sin. What the fuck are you talking about? What is this? How can he have stage fright as a coach?
I mean, you can kind of think about it, right? Because a lot of issues with stage pick bans is that, okay, you have a situation where someone comes out with an unexpected pick, and then maybe you talked about it in a scrim or in a team meeting beforehand where you said, okay, if they come up with this pick, we're going to pick this. But then your player just panics and says, no, I'm going to pick Talia. You know, It's like, this is really bad in this situation. And then the coach just kind of like freezes. It's like, oh God, what do I do? It's like, and then the players are arguing and the coach needs to come in and say, no, we agreed beforehand on this for this reason, we're doing this. But like maybe he just has trouble doing that in the moment. So you can think of scenarios where a coach could have stage fright issues, right? So for me,
I was about to say, I can imagine that being a thing when he was on LGD initially, when he's like,
Oh, yeah.
was like, I'm playing Twitch. So what? You want to play Twitch? I don't have a Twitch competition. So I can imagine that being an issue way back then. Maybe he's grown since then, but that's fucking hilarious.
It's just Stockholm syndrome. Like,
Twitch? Again?
He now needs a strong AD carry to manhandle him and pick ban. You see how this, like when UZI shows up, we'll just have first pick Veins and it'll be fine, you know? So it's good.
So I have a question for you, Raz. So in this team, obviously one of the biggest names, one of the star players is Xiaohu, the mid laner. Now, when I did an interview recently with Perks, he did the classic move that all the Westerners do, right? Where what they do is, unless you're basically Faker or like the very best Korean mid laner, they're not allowed to ever give you props. So on the one hand, Perks was sort of like, he wasn't, that impressed by Xiaohu, he thought it was the whole team, etc. But then magically, when I asked him to contrast directly with Bjergsen, he's my friend, I don't want to say anything. He's like, yeah, exactly, motherfucker, yeah. Now we get down to brass tacks. So tell me this, where does Xiaohu stack up as a mid laner in the world for you, Raz? Is he up there with the Koreans?
Oh, 100%. 1,000. Because he's always been a talented mid laner, but there was always a question with me and how he would play on a team. Because this is going way too far back when he was on GAMT and stuff. But I remember what sold me on it was last year, essentially, when he was getting new people coming in every point in time. Y4 was in there, Yihan was in there, and I was wondering how would he look with a new jungler, because a lot of the times it was based on jungle mid lane synergy between Xiaohu and MLXG, and he would roam incredibly well. He would do super well in lane. He would roam at perfect timings towards top lane, get let me ahead, get bottom side ahead. A lot of RNG's wins were just based off of their early mid victories. And I was like, holy shit. All right, well, what's happening now? Bring in Bebe. What's happening there? Like that Via player. It's like, oh, he does exactly well. He does better in some instances. And then you bring in Yihan, and Yihan's a great jungler. He's on a fucking team now named as Pepper. Good name change. But ultimately, it felt like you bring a new environment to Xiaohu, and it feels like he makes the jungler, or at least he just makes the team so much better early on in the game, regardless of the matchup. Like Syndra was his big pick. I really loved him on Syndra, and hopefully he comes back into the pick this season, or at least early on this split. But I feel like Xiaohu right now is a top 5 mid laner in the world. I just say that because I feel like it's difficult for me to find three mid laners that are ahead of him. I'll probably try and make a list and be like, oh, actually, I have 2 mid laners right here. But no, right now, I do believe right now Xiaohu's one of the best.
Okay. What about you, Kelsey?
Yeah, I think the only thing that I had hesitation for with last World Championship when I was ranking mid laners for Xiaohu was just his track record in general, because there are a lot of Chinese mids who have done really well domestically, and then they go to Worlds, they don't do as well, and then Xiaohu had a really good MSI in 2016, but not a good World Championship. But for me, I think Xiaohu has just performed consistently well in, as you mentioned, all of the different circumstances. And I think that he definitely performs better on certain specific champions, like Corki or Ryze, for example. He's been tearing it up as Ryze in general. But it doesn't mean that he's bad, right? He doesn't bottom out on other champions. So I think that that's definitely also a mark of excellence, is that he has a certain level of consistency on champions in general, despite having his best picks. And it's not one champion that's his best. He can be sort of resilient in metas.
Yes.
Okay. Because if you are looking for another very good mid laner, the team that they played, Invictus Gaming, obviously has Rookie on it. Now, here's the funny thing. If you look at the way the teams played, you would think that it was actually EDG that were the biggest Samsung Blue fans ever, because of the way they set their team up, the way they got everything together. Even Coral 1 was sort of playing somewhat akin to the Acorn-style tank role. But actually, it's clear to me that whoever owns Invictus Gaming is the real Samsung Blue biggest fan ever, because he saw Katie Arrows beat them, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to buy that rookie guy, and I'm going to fuck his career up nasty. Every season, it's going to be something new with this guy. It's going to be like, oh, new player. Oh, cool. We got help, have you? Nah. Still not good, is it? You know what? We're just going to keep rotating AD carries all day long. It's like a fucking Black Mirror episode or something. Chinese billionaire buys most hated Korean player he doesn't like and purposely ruins career with series of inept recruitments. How do they end up over and over again with this IG team where they have pieces that look very good, including rookie, obviously, and it's not even like all the players are bad. They always have players that, a couple of them have potential. Why do they never get a really good roster together, though?
I mean, it depends on who you ask, but this is supposed to be the year for IG, right?
I've heard that before, but okay.
I mean, I'm not really big on the whole IG thing, but I think what they did this year and at the end of last year kind of goes back to what they were doing before, which is we just throw out all of these veterans and we pick up some really young guys and we just let them kind of go to town. And that's sort of what made the initial IG really strong, domestically at least, right? So I think that was sort of the plan. And so they picked up kind of rookie and his rookies last summer.
Yes.
And ended up with like the Shy, and these guys were doing crazy shit like diving inhibitor turrets at 5 minutes or something like this, chasing kills, and they would pull rookie into it. He just kind of goes along with it because he can, and they're the team that's constantly looking to just like win lane, outplay you, do a bunch of other stuff like this. So they don't really have a sense of like, they're the quintessential LPL team, right? That people think of when they think of the LPL.
Stereotypes, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of the problem with IG is I feel like in some iteration or other, they will almost always be that team. They're really fun to watch. They end up getting a lot of fans that way, but they're not really ever going to consistently win you your titles.
Are they one of those teams that keeps the same coaching staff from season to season?
They've had Malfa on board for a really long time. He kind of dipped into the background for a while, but he's back as the head coach again. So they've had Malfa since 2015 when everything happened. They had the same assistant coach on the roster for a while, even through 2015, not anymore, but they've kept like kind of at least a consistent line of coaches. So.
Okay. Right. Is there any hope for Invictus Gaming, Raz? Like, is Jackie Love gonna actually be a revelation and be the guy who helps make this more than just rookie?
Yeah, I'm having an article about this out pretty soon, funny enough. That just kind of a big point about IG historically has been that they've, like, having PDD and Zatai on the team, it felt like they've always tried to replicate that, to be their, like, what they molded their team and organization off of. Like, this is what success is. Like, our success is in the top lane and in the mid lane. Bottom lane, I don't fucking know what that is. Don't even talk to me. Like it's our top
because,
lane and mid
they
lane.
were like the antimatter equivalent to WWE, right? So they were like, right, there's no point trying to get a better AD carry, so we'll just have the anti-AD carry, who's now a fucking jungler. However, that's how LPL works, apparently. So, okay. So, and do you see this team as something that's, like, were you leading to saying that they were going to shift away from that then?
Yeah, it seems like this is going to be the year where they start to move away from that. And it's mostly because, not so much because Jackie Love is the talented AD carry. He is talented. Like, I think that he's right now like top 6, top 7. It's just a very difficult thing to say because right now AD carry is really stacked position right now in the LPL. But I think that what Jackie Love brings is like an attitude change, because we've seen him in off-season tournaments since 2016 where they just play around mid and bottom side. They don't even go top lane that much under, like, when they've had Jackie Love on the team, because he just comes in, he plays Draven. He plays not even so much Draven pick that like identifies him, but like how aggressively he plays in the laning phase, that he calls a jungle attention. Because if he doesn't get his own jungle attention, he's going to be getting camped and he's going to be dying a few times. So I think that's like a major attitude adjustment, because that's like the same attitude like iBoy has in some cases. That's the same attitude that like that SMLZ kind of had when they had like SMLZ and 5 and OMG. I don't know what the new dynamic is on the new team, but ultimately IG starts to play through bottom lane now, or at least through mid and bot. And that's going to be a big shift to what IG does like identify with. And I think that's going to be great for them, that they can actually start contesting teams like EDG, RNG through bot side. I don't know if that's going to take them top 3 into the Worlds. That's like a long fucking way off, but I think that's a good start.
Also, I mean, UZI is the quintessential example of that kind of AD carry style. And I feel like the LPL has sort of followed a trajectory where Wei Xiao was the number 1 player for a while. And so you had a bunch of really talented AD carries come out of the directly after the Wei Xiao era. And then for a while, it was Clear Love. And you had jungle became like a more important role in LPL. You had people talking about the junglers, picking up a new crop of interesting jungle players and things like that. And now we have UZI, who is once again the king of the LPL, right? Everyone's favorite. He's the guy who goes far at international events now, all that sort of thing. So we're seeing a new wave of UZI-esque AD carries who are just super aggressive. As the way he even is aware of some of his flaws, and he just doesn't seem to care. He's just like, yeah, when we play this way, I need to have the jungler near my lane because otherwise I'm not going to pay that much attention or all this other shit. And he's just very upfront about it. So I think that that has spawned like a wave of AD carries in a very similar vein. So
yeah.
Okay. Obviously, no pun there. Right. Another team I wanted to ask you. Okay, no, actually, let me just get a take on that though. Where do you think IG will actually stack up then?
Ooh.
Like it sounded like you were building it like then they can challenge the EDGs and the RNGs, but are they actually just below them, or is it like do they have to just get even to that point? Are they middle of the pack? Whereabouts are they for you?
So right now, I still think the top 4 teams would be WE, IG, EDG, and RNG. Just like looking at the teams, EDG surprised me because I thought, maybe not, because they're not starting with like Clear Love and everything, but immediately they're just kicking people's asses. So I think they would come in as a 3rd place team and would be still contesting it with WE, which is literally the same shit as last split. Yes. Yeah. But I think that's going to be the case unless like if another team comes up. But I still don't think. Like, the only team that really kind of hit that whole, we're going to contest that is maybe Rogue Warriors. We haven't seen them play yet, but we've seen them in the Demacia Cup, and I'm still not convinced. They just look like they fight a lot.
Okay. I'm really not convinced by Rogue Warriors. They're, like, I'm more convinced by, like, Suning and Fun Plus, probably, than Rogue Warriors. But I would say, for me, like, IG were already contesting the top teams at Summer, so that can't just be their goal. The other thing is that Jackie Love, I've watched Jackie Love solo queue games. He doesn't play with the same sense of confidence for sure in solo queue as he does on stage. So I think that what we're seeing, like the iteration of IG that debuted, isn't the ideal iteration of IG that we're going to see later. So I think that a lot of these, like, people are throwing out the names iBoy, Abel, and Jackie Love. Like, these are the next coming of, I guess, to shoehorn it in, Wei Xiao, Nami, and UCI, right? So, like, these are the names that people are throwing around, and these are supposed to be the new AD carry gods, but I think that it's going to be a while before we can call them that, and before we can kind of determine whether or not they actually meet that criteria, so.
Okay, well, speaking of iBoy's team then, EDG, so they did keep basically the same roster, but they added in Ray, the guy who was in Cloud9, and people might remember they used to just bring him into play at the carry tops, basically. Now, obviously, I have seen carry tops played in EDG before by a young man called Amazing J, and I wish I could probably delete that from my own brain. But what do you think of this addition of Ray to the team?
I think it's important to notice that Nofe sort of took over the coaching roles and the main coaching trajectory for EDG last year, and you could see it very clearly in like a shift where they played for more winning lane comps and stuff like this. And Nofe obviously knows how to work with top laners, whereas I felt like Aaron could never really figure it out, right? And the main EDG coaching staff beforehand could never really figure it out. And you saw him trying to, at the very start of last season, put Cora 1 and Mouse on like Jace. And it didn't. It just was not working out for them. So I think that this is kind of giving him the kind of player he wants to work with and the kind of player he initially wanted to work with when he went to EDG. Also, Ray was originally in the Edward Gaming organization, but he was very upfront about basically the coaches didn't have anything to do with the LSPL team. They kind of just let them run around and do whatever they wanted. So this is a chance for him to kind of actually get the full treatment of the organization. He's already used to the environment, so hopefully it works out for them. I actually think it's probably one of the better moves that was made in the offseason.
Just for context, when Kelsey says that about Nofe, as a player, even as a player, when he was in the Najin Shield team, obviously they had Expression and they had Save, and then as a coach, obviously he had Smeb over in the Rocks Tigers. So yes, someone with a long history of playing through the top lane and having basically the star player be there. So, like, what do you actually, I mean, presumably you saw him in LCS before. What do you actually think of Ray as a player, Raz?
I think Ray is like, even though Ray going up against Impact for the lineup on C9, it's a little unfair because Impact is much like, it's just, yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one. You're not going to win that battle. Like Impact just does a lot more because he can play both sides, both tanks and carries, and he's much more in tune with the team. And goddamn, he speaks the language really well. So like he just kind of got in tune to the culture. I thought it was just like, that was going to be a tough one to start. But I really do think that Ray is very talented. And I thought that EDG missed their shot last time round when he was on the bench, and then they didn't want to do anything with him because they wanted to bring in Mouse for their top, or at least keep Mouse as their top laner. I understood at the time it was just because then you have the Korean issue of, well, we have 2 Koreans on the team on the front lineup anyways. But I would have much rather seen like a Chinese mid laner at the time, because this was during the discussion when you was on the team, when you could possibly have you could possibly look for another domestic talent. And I was like, well, I'd be I think there are a lot of great Chinese mid lane talent out there. EDG has a lot of teams and they have a lot that they can choose from. But anyways, they finally got him back, and I think that's the right choice, because ultimately EDG needed to have a carry style in the top lane. They didn't, like, that was something that they lacked for a long time. And even though Mouse has showed that he can play those picks in the regular season, he's not going to play when it comes down to playoffs. He's not going to play when it comes down to like international events. Like, he's just showcasing that, hey, you know what? I have a big champion pool. I'm just not confident in playing that pool when it comes to actual meaningful games.
Okay. So Kelsey, obviously it's like, this is another one of those bizarre things where a pattern just repeats, even though on the surface it just seems too simplistic. Like, obviously everyone who only saw EDG at the last few Worlds used to always go mad on that Mouse guy and just be like, he's fucking shit, why is he playing? But every time he was in LPL, as we've discussed many times on this show, he was always pretty good actually. He always seemed like he knew what he was doing. So, like, do you have a conclusion as to why that experiment just didn't work on the international level? Because if you are EDG, you know, kind of to contrast it with what we said about IG, it's not enough anymore to be like, let's try and win the LPL. It's like, well, no, you have to actually try and win Worlds now. That really is the next goal, you know. So what's your take on why that experiment ended? So
I actually don't agree that Mouse was consistently good in LPL the same way that Raz and a lot of the LPL casters do. For example, I think he obviously got a little bit better last year, but in 2016, people are like, oh, why do EDG only drop games to bottom tier teams? Because bottom tier teams are the ones with the carry top laners. Yeah. And he just can't deal with this shit. Like, it was pretty much, and it's obviously not consistently Mouse's fault. I do levy a lot of that to a coaching staff that wasn't really well equipped to teach him not just one role swap, because he was originally a mid laner, but 2 role swaps, and then throw him to the LSPL team and then take him back to the main roster. And he just kind of, I got the sense that he was one of those players that everyone talks about how great his attitude is, and he'll learn anything you force him to learn, and he'll be really, really dedicated. He'll play more than other people. And so they really wanted that to work, and he showed definite gains, but he wasn't developing probably as fast as they needed him to. Also, allegedly, Rogue Warriors kind of threw some money around, and this is the roster they wanted, and they picked up Mouse. So.
I will say, just to piggyback off that one, because I agree in 2016, it wasn't like, that was a difficult season for Mouse because he was playing those tanks consistently. And you're right, like he would go up against Flandre, he would go up against another like carry top laner, and some things would go wrong. But that's why I felt like in the next season and the next year, he was playing consistently well, because even though like during the spring split when things were going poorly for EDG, because they really couldn't, like, they would have great early games, but the later portions of the games were just kind of like they would consistently throw it off because they didn't have that consistent, I guess, shot calling, or at least focus in that point of the game. Mouse was just doing really well. Like, his Shen was, I would say, top tier. I thought at that point in time that he was like a top 3, top 4 top laner in the league. And so I was like, okay, like, Mouse is a great tank player. which is why I do think that Rogue Warriors made a proper pickup, and I think their team looks great as a team fighting sense. I don't think Rogue Warriors picked Mouse up in the sense that he's like, oh, well, he's going to be playing the Jaces of the lane, like, or he's going to be playing like the carry pick. He'll probably play as Rumble, which everyone can play at that point. But yeah, I think right now he's a really good top laner, but he won't be the best just because he's not as versatile in those situations.
Okay.
Even though in Demacia Cup they had him playing Camille and Gnar pretty much every game.
You know what? Gnar is just the standard, right? Camille's too broken.
Yeah, Camille's broken. But so I noticed that you said when they get out of laning phase, he played really well. And I think that that's showing the good attitude that Mouse had, or just the good approach to the game that Mouse had, and the fact that he was willing to learn these concepts really well. And obviously Edward Gaming has always probably had the closest approach to like really strong macro of any of the teams in the LPL. So I think that really helped him, and that really made him shine. But in terms of just like being able to judge his skill in certain matchups, that's where he suffered a lot. And so for me, like that kind of ended up being the thing that didn't improve. He improved in a lot of other ways, and I think that's like really impressive, but it was something that ended up being the thing that kind of cost them internationally as well. So,
and you referenced before iBoy, who obviously was someone who actually, despite EDG's poor worlds, actually had some games that looked good. Right, obviously he plays into that ridiculous stereotype in the LPL of like, well, if the piece of paper says he's 17, then who am I to deny this clearly adult young man who is indeed 17 years around the moon and sun? Clearly he's older, right? That guy looks like he's 12. So is he the player where like this year, if he develops, he's what will put EDG over the top? You sounded a little bit skeptical.
I think yeah, he definitely looks really, really good. Like when he debuted, I kind of had reservations, like luckily for him, this is Ardent Sensor meta and he can just run into 5 people and not die. Thank God for that, because he was playing all over the place, but I think he got reined in a little bit. And he was also a player who was very open about saying things like, I just do what Mako tells me to do. I'm just going to be micromanaged. I'm just going to attack things, and that's how it's going to be. I still
Wait
think
a minute. This guy tries to buy into that whole Uzi hype, and he's saying shit like that. Like, yeah, I just do whatever the support tells me. Like, really? Listen, fucking Kylo Ren, if you want to be Darth Vader, you better actually live up to the mantle.
He actually, people called him like a little UZI, but he actually came out and said, I just want to be iBoy, you know, like the very...
That's more depressing. That sounded like, why is everyone calling me UZI? I just want to be me. It's like, yeah, well, currently you are not really anyone, are you? So we're saying, do you want to be someone good? You don't have to literally be him.
It's even more confusing because he originally named himself just after Deft. He just took the name, so it's a little bit inconsistent there. But I think that he is a player who is willing to he says, okay, you say jump, I say how high, and then he'll just go all the way. Sometimes he goes too far, right? And it's very clear that he's doing this. But
got a bullet in his head. Yeah, keep going.
But he's very talented, I guess, is the way to put it. And then, like, if he can be controlled, if he can be reined in and put into kind of like the EDG, we're going to take this first tower really fast, and then we're going to transition really fast to the second lane, and then we're going to put all of the tower gold on the AD carry, and we're going to spearhead through this part of the mid game, then I think that he can work really well in that formula. And so all of the pieces in EDG just make sense to me right now. So that's why I think that this is right now the best team. So
okay, and you just gave us the list of teams who are good, right? Where does EDG stack up for you, Raz?
God, they're probably first place right now. Like at first, I thought that they were gonna be third, fourth place. I thought that this was gonna be one of the usual, I was about to say worst splits, but like the usual spring split from EDG is like, you know what, they're doing pretty bad. Maybe they're not going to make it this time around. just because they weren't going to be starting with Clear Love, that they had a new dynamic entirely in the top lane. I was like, okay, well, you know what? This seems like the year where they're trying to experiment and that doesn't go well for them. But results are starting to show that like they're blasting teams right now in a lot of lanes. So like their lane strength is there, and the core of EDG is still pretty strong. So iBoy, Kelsey already mentioned, right now is an exceptional AD carry, along with Mako. I think that this guy got spoiled on day one. Like the sense of iBoy now, his beginning of his career, his expectation of his support and his dual laner is this high that he's going to be like with Mako just to start off his career is good. May not end well for him if he goes to a different team, but I think that he is so good, like individually, and he understands like the lane so well that EDG will be first place just because they have the top talent.
Okay. So the other Worlds team from the LPL was obviously Team WE, aka Don't Call Us World Elite. And the sad thing is, this team obviously just kept their lineup. Because remember, they did that classic move, which was like, what do you mean? We made top 4 Worlds. We won a game off the mighty Samsung Galaxy. You know, what the fuck are you talking about? Why would we change our lineup? Like, Kelsey, if you, as a complete outsider who has no ties to Team WE, shouldn't they have made some sort of off-season move? Shouldn't they have tried to shore something up or get a better player at a position? Didn't they have a little bit of a one-dimensional style?
So I see that and I hear that criticism, but at the same time, WE have actually only improved since they've been together. Like, I feel like every time we see this team, they're a little bit better.
Okay.
And they're really kind of bad at some of the stuff that I just sort of faulted Mouse for and all this other shit where they can't really seem to get it together or have a cohesive early game plan outside of the way that 957 responds to jungle pressure, which I think is consistently really good, and just like understanding where his jungle is on the map and where the enemy jungle is on the map and how he's going to position in the lane. But other than that, I think that they're just kind of messing around a little bit, but they have focused so hard on understanding this Baron setup thing that we kind of memed at the start of the show, and understanding like how to get the waves to position correctly so that you can always get an advantage when you're contesting Baron, even when you're behind. Like this aspect of the game, they fine-tuned really well. Obviously, you can kind of ask yourself, how far in this dimension can they go? How far can they fine-tune that so that they're competitive and still one of the better teams? But so far, I don't think we've seen like the peak WE. Even though they've been together for 2 years, I don't think we've seen the peak WE. So,
where are they left to develop where they might?
I do think that just in terms of shaking up where they want to go, I think 957 is a player who has developed considerably. He's a player that they can kind of play around if they need more help in the early game. Mystic wants to play hyper carries anyway, so it never kind of made sense to me that all of the jungle pressure early goes to bottom lane when it could be going to more of the solo lanes who have like kind of come into their own finally.
Why is that still a thing, by the way? I know obviously earlier on you alluded to the very, very famous stereotype that because obviously they did used to have the amazing AD carries, every team did play around AD carry, and then even when the Koreans came over, if you have Deft, obviously again you're going to play through him. You know, there's a logical sense to a lot of these teams. But why is it that it does only tend to be the middle of the table to the bottom teams that ever do kind of like go through the top lane and try and have a carry top laner or try and unleash the top lane to the same degree? Why do they still generally in the top teams seem to think it's like you play tanks in the top lane?
It depends on the team, I guess, because I felt like for a good part of last year, RNG actually did play around top a lot because they felt like this was the meta, and it worked out for them. I think that they ended up playing around mid a little bit. IG have always been a solo lane consistent team, and I would say by the end of the year they should be considered a top team if they're consistently taking like all the other top teams to best of fives. And then so I think that there has been more solo lane focus. It's just that recently, especially, we're seeing a lot more attention to bottom lane and a lot more shift back to, bottom lane is like really the best way to play the game. And there have been some meta considerations for that. There have also just been like, that's where people are focusing their talent as well. So
Okay, right. Who is Team WE, Raz?
Team WE is I don't say they're the varsity team, but ultimately they're a team that understand that their primary focus is based off teamwork, team play, like what the game is, like the science of the game. So keeping their lineup for 2 seasons, like for them, that just means like, we can work on our communication. We don't have to bring in an extra Korean player. We don't have to bring in like an extra scrub or something. Unless there's somebody from like some top talented solo queue like player who has to understand competitive. Like that takes a long time to do that. So WE, to me, they could. The reason why I come into this season and saying that they'll probably come in like 3rd or 4th place is because I always don't believe in the whole hype of, it takes a long time for a team to really get it together by the end, because we've seen teams kind of like come from scratch, from nothing. Yes. And they understand the game by one or 2 splits depending on their styles. Like I would say that EDG, even though they've reformed a good portion of their team, like they have Haro, they have Ray. Yeah, Haro, Ray, and like I guess Scout's still playing the way he is, but you can take that for what it is. You can take that for what it is. Like they seem like those changes, as drastic as it is, can still take them to first place, just because eventually they'll get used to having a carry top laner, and eventually they'll recognize that by the end of the season, we can be patient enough to do just that. But WE, they think that the growth progress of like having a consistent team will make them that much better, but I only think that it's going to make them that much better in the beginning of the split, when every other team is just kind of figuring themselves out. But by the end of the season, like let's say by end of summer when they have to go to Worlds and the WE's kept firm and they're going up against an EDG that has understood each other as a team, my worry, or like I'm talking about even IG, where they just have Jackie Love coming in. My worry is that, well, what's the storyline for that matchup going to be? And it's going to be, can CA take Rookie? Like that's just going to that is going to be the end goal, is like, can CA deal with X mid laner? Like, is he talented enough in that case? And CA has had incredible games internationally and domestically when he's on Jace, when he's on Vladimir, when he has those few picks that he can excel on. But sometimes he just like loses lane, or at least even Cassidy, I would say. But like, a lot of the times I come into a matchup expecting him to lose just because of how strong a lot of these mid laners are.
He doesn't play traditional mages. That's kind of been my conclusion, is that he's not like an Orianna player, but he'll do the assassins and he'll do like the weird AD picks and stuff like this really well, but he's not really a mage player.
He'll have like he'll like convert. He'll have like some convert to the meta moments. Like he'll play the Corki. He'll always have that one pick that makes a lot of sense for the meta, and he'll converge a lot that one time. But ultimately, it's like he should be playing, like he is at the top when he's playing his own picks. And if that's the case, then a lot of the times you just like either ban out the picks or play counter pick. And a lot of the times, like Rookie, Scout, like you can name them, will be able to take them in lane.
By the way, just as a quick sidebar, one thing I noticed by its absence is this the first split where there was not a single big name Korean who went to the LPL?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
And is this?
I guess
is this
summer there
tied
wasn't any new ones, right?
I mean, generally like the
first season
though.
Yeah.
So is that somehow tied to the narrative that because RNG did so well with the Chinese lineup, people don't really want the Chinese player, the Korean players anymore? Is it that there's not as much money to throw around anymore? Like, is there a sense, or is this a conversation that's been had in the LPL as to why they didn't bring over someone or other?
It's partly money, because NA definitely, I think, objectively has the highest offers in the world right now, and the other part is, people talk about it as the RNG model, which is just having a consistent language. Like even Hart is able to speak fluent Mandarin Chinese, and that model was successful for them.
I see what you mean by that, because actually, yes, someone who actually probably should have been the clear candidate here would have been like Huni, right? That would have been probably the big name that in traditional past years you would have think he would just get the big check and go to LPL, but no one did. A bunch of them went to NA. You might be right there.
Yeah,
there were probably a few exceptions. I think you're right on the second point that like right now the model for a lot of these Chinese teams are communication, and we don't really need like a top tier talent coming in, because even though a lot of the big names went to North America, a lot of the big names also went to Turkey.
Yeah,
so you have those kind of. So like there are some regions that really do value Korean players, and I think LPL used to be that in 2015, 2016. But ultimately, ever since like semifinals where WE came in so big, and sure, Mystic is Korean, but like he was a player that could start to communicate with the team, and he came in really early on too. So it feels like teams are starting to understand the meaning of like kind of like having a consistent like Chinese roster, and also it's they don't have the risk of saying, hey, you know what? You're not going to get relegated this time around, because there is there's the LDL and we're enfranchisement, so you can take that risk.
Okay.
Also, the narrative is so pervasive that they asked Zero, why do you think you don't do as well as EDG and RNG at Worlds? And he's like, well, probably because we have more Korean players and our communication is as good. It's like, dude, you've been there literally longer than anyone. You don't speak Chinese. What's wrong with you?
You also literally are Korean.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck are you doing? Why are you hating?
And he's criticizing himself. It's like, yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah,
a fake Korean, we know where he lies.
Okay.
He's one of us.
Okay, so a team that you've already referred to numerous times is the Rogue Warrior team, which is the squad that, as you said, has picked up Mouse and obviously has Doinby and has SMLZ. So they have some names that we definitely know from the LPL and have been in some top teams at times. Why did you say that while people were hyping them, you kind of didn't buy into that? Why? There's some good players in this team. Admittedly, they don't have a very big roster. Sure, there's that. But why not imagine this to be a team that could challenge for the top?
And this one's to me, right?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So Rogue Warriors, I think it's mostly because a lot of the hype, like whenever we make a criticism towards hype, it's mostly because somebody's come out there, or at least a lot of people come out there and like, Doinby on a team? This team is so sick, man. Like literally every, like you see a team of Doinby, SMLZ, an EDG member, a Mouse, like a lot of those names will strike out to people as like a top 3 team. And I think that's like nowhere, I think they're a middle of the pack team. And a lot of the case comes down to like, well, who's on the team? Like Doinby's a big one, obviously. Like it's his team in a sense. Mouse is like a tank player. He can do his role. SMLZ is a hyper carry. He can play his role. And so a lot of these players are established. The only ones that aren't established is Flawless because he didn't really play on a so solid lineup. He hasn't like played consistently.
Yes.
IMA has tried, but they hadn't made it work because they just have too many Koreans in terms of Road and Athena. And every single time they try and get Road off by playing like someone else, like a Chinese support, like the team just falls off the rails. So Flawless finally gets his moment, but he hasn't like proven himself consistently because he just hasn't been on a consistent lineup. Killua is a support that I have high praise for. I think that he's going to be really solid as a rookie support. But to me, when I look at this team, and we've seen a little bit of them in Demacia Cup as well, it's exactly as expected in that they are good team fighters. But there's not a star element to me that comes out and say, well, they'll be able to take down EDG, RNG on a macro sense. There's not a sense of like, here's a smart team from you. Here's an aggressive, talented team. That's just like that's a Chinese team for me.
it's also really interesting because they brought Stake from Flash Wolves to be the head coach, but you see them in Demacia Cup, and I'm aware that Doinby kind of lets himself go even more in third-party tournaments than he normally goes, but this was just like on another level of Abyssal Mask, Iceborne Gauntlet casting. It's like, oh, this comp will scale. No, not with that. It won't.
Not anymore. Not even like it won't scale no more. It was in theory. Stake was like, this is a great scaling composition, and then he saw a Glacial Shroud, and he was like, no, it won't. like it will definitely not now.
And there's the famous story where they said that Maokai countered some champion in the mid lane. I can't even remember who it was, but the coach allegedly of the first QG lineup said that. So Doinby just literally plays Maokai mid. It's just like you kind of begin to see where the best intentions of the person doing pick ban just slowly starts to dissolve with Doinby involved. So I don't know. It's just a very interesting team because I felt like on the last lineup with Jingdong, right? People were very critical of the bottom lane on that team. People ended up being very critical of Kabi on that team. And they said that, people went as far as to say Doinby is the Bjergsen of LPL because he's just weighed down by his side lanes to an extent. And then obviously that analogy doesn't work on multiple levels. But
not least because Bjergsen's the faker of NA, so what the fuck does that actually make Doinby? Now I'm so confused. So, okay, keep going.
But
the LPL math is hurting my brain.
Yeah, it's just... there were so many macro elements wrong with that team that it was hard to... they legitimately, every time they did a lane swap, would just screw over their bot lane. It's no wonder this guy is getting Flame Horizoned. I just... So
this is I'm so sad. In the sense that the big thing about Doinby, or at least in the last team that he was in, is that it came down to the point of what's the team's goal now from 20 minutes onwards. What is this team's goal and how do they think they're going to win the game? And it came down to give Doinby every fucking wave. Give him every wave. Don't set up a wave. Is that wave piling up? That's Doinby's wave now. It's to the point where it's mostly that just to get him into a team fighting position. So ultimately their goal was to team fight and have Doinby be that massive team fighting point, right? That massive DPS point, even when they had Loken on the team. Maybe that changes with SMLZ, but that's the big point, is that it's going to have to change in a sense. Something has to change where the big goal isn't team fight. But it feels like that is going to be the case.
And then he throws all the gold away on trash builds anyway, so what's the point? But the funny thing is that SMLC kind of had a similar reputation, right, when he was on OMG, whereas I felt like OMG didn't really have a lot of macro, but they managed to climb up to be in contention with some of the top teams just for a little bit with basically, Icon and the jungler and Xiong would be kind of running around the map and dying repeatedly, and SMLZ and 5 would just be diligently farming until they got to a point where SMLZ could hyper carry his way to winning the game for them. So it feels like these two teams Rogue Warriors picked up these two players with a similar frame of reference. Was these guys look really good because their teams big them up in such a way, which makes me uneasy to think that might be their approach to roster building as well. So
I will say how funny it is that how similar these players are, but they're so goddamn different personality wise. Literally one guy is just the most expressionless human being. The other guy is his entire life is an emotion. So it's great. It's beautiful.
So what about the team formerly, it was the former slot of IMA, now known as Billy Gaming, which sounds like some shit like a little kid would say, sounds good, but again, one of those Chinese names, don't know what that's all about. So obviously, there's some names people know in here, the aforementioned Amazing J, Athena, who's doing not so bad the last few years, Road, as you mentioned, got a whole bunch of people we know, so... Obviously, this was a team where the last few splits were somewhat underwhelming, kind of crap, if we're being honest. So what about this particular lineup? What hope do you have for it, or is there any hope?
I'll go out and say that I think this team's still fighting for mid card and midpoint of the split. A lot of their troubles in the past has been their jungle position, trying to figure out what really fit. How do they fit a roster in? Because they do need Road on that team to have an identity, something that they can play towards. And Amazing J fills out who their carry position is. So this is one of those teams that has a carry top laner that try to figure out how to fit a team fighting element while still having kind of a split push. They have a very clear identity, and a lot of the times it becomes difficult to play through that style when metas change towards having tank top laners, and when honestly they need to just have the coordination and the macro to be able to pull off a lot of these split push comps. So I think sometimes they just make it harder than it should be. So it's just going to be the same case of they're going to be middle of the pack just because they try and make it hard for themselves, and they don't have the top tier talent across their lineup.
I will say one thing that this team constantly impresses me with is that they understand TP forcing really well. Like,
Yeah.
really, really well. I see so many teams, it's like, okay, we've got priority in the bot lane, we've got priority in the mid lane, we have some stragglers over here by Baron, but they're going to eventually have to address this other wave. Just TP, just go, just force them to fight. But this team will do it every time. It's good. So I enjoy that aspect of them. I think SKS has kind of been feeding himself back into the lineup, but I still think they have a really long way to go to be. In my head, it's still almost a weird fluke that they made the World Championship anyway. So I think it was just like they had this very sudden increase in skill or this very sudden uptick in play that I think Frost contributes to the fact that they were scrimming EDG like crazy leading up to it. So I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. So a team we've already referenced before is OMG. And OMG is a team who, yes, they go with the all Chinese players. They're definitely sticking with that approach. Except Icon, right? Isn't it? Oh no, he's Chinese.
No, he's Chinese. Yeah.
Okay. So they have the all Chinese team. Why is this team so underwhelming? Because like some of these players I've watched, they were like Icon had some games I saw where he popped off. Why is this team like? First of all, why have they stuck with this core? And where do you see like what's the future for this squad? Seems a bit depressing, really.
I don't think the players are bad. They just don't know how to play League of Legends. Like, that makes sense in terms of team. Like, it's weird because their team play elements are really poor. Like, if you contrast the way that RNG really emphasized being able to coordinate across side lanes and understanding, like, what they had to do to get this lane ahead to make sure that UZI could soft reset the mid wave later on and not have to overextend or anything like this. But RNG were really good at kind of setting that up. But I feel like OMG said, oh, okay, we're kind of our game plan is literally just screw around and distract them from the bottom lane until SMLZ gets 4 items, right? That was basically it. And I don't know, it got them to win some games, which was kind of cool to see. But I don't know, maybe you have a better opinion of them than I do.
Yeah. I think I have slightly a slightly better opinion in the sense that
Sure.
they had the concept down. Like they had the idea. The concept was like put your split push in the bottom side of the map. It's like, you know what? That's my job. My name is Icon. I'm going down there. I'm playing LeBlanc. And then the moment LeBlanc sees an enemy champion, suddenly the wave is not a concern anymore, and she just tries to. So that's the case for OMG a lot of the times. Is that a lot of their early mid game portions were like, they're in the right positions. This is what I'd like to see. All right, well, let's see how this plays out. They just need 10 seconds, 20 seconds, just wait on the waves to be able to crash and then like see what LeBlanc can do with it, or see what like Icon does whenever whatever champion he's on. And this was especially the case after Rift Rivals, where they understood that they needed to play a little bit more patiently, and they were like, okay, let's do that. But I think it's a problem with, let's say, personality points, where it is Icon's kind of game plan to be like, why I can end this game faster. Like it's like I can just speed this case up to just kind of go for this one-on-one kill. So sometimes like these grand scheme plans just end up falling to the wayside when they see an enemy member, like an AD carry who seems like he's alone, or it's just a 2v1, but you don't have much vision. And it's not just an Icon thing. Yeah. I do think that Five is another player, like just these people who definitely believe in their own abilities to just take these fights. And on top of that, another issue is their jungle position, that they just it feels like they just are nowhere near resolving, because World 6 came in and it feels like he was the person who resolved everything, but then he got 10 times more riskier in the first 3 minutes of the game. Like he just decided that every game was going to be a new cheese, and then he dies and you're like, well, good luck for the next 20. Yeah. And then they bring Jeffco, who I guess brought in consistency, but he's not a strong jungler compared to like the jungle pool in the LPL. So now they bring in Firelolly, and I think Firelolly on EDG last time we saw him was significantly better than the last time we saw him. I think Firelolly is only getting better, but what does that mean for this team? Will they stick to Fire Lolly? Will they stick to just one jungler? Or will they just now have a revolving door, a literal 3-way revolving door with junglers? So I don't think they're even close to resolving their jungle issues. And that's even before starting their like team play issues.
How come in the LPL, like there's so many teams where you look and they might have like 3 ADCs or 3 support players, and they have all these players, and not only that, they'll even field some of them, you know, they'll give it a different lineup and go, why are junglers some mad protected position where junglers who are never even were that good just keep staying on teams, stay in a squad forever, get to another team signs them? Like, it's completely inexplicable to me. Like I just don't understand. Like, what are the Chinese teams seeing in all these junglers?
I don't know if there's anyone in my head right now who immediately jumps out as being like that, except maybe like I have a lot more issues with Flawless than you do, because I feel like this guy hasn't really understood how to play with his game lanes, and I'm not sure he's in a position where he'll even learn that. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
But so maybe that would be the example. I don't think Fire Lolly is one of those players, because I actually do think he improved and got a lot better.
Dude,
like when
TBQ only just retired. I was like, holy shit, that guy was still in the LPL? What the fuck?
He wasn't on a team, though. Yeah, he
shouldn't have been on a team from about 2015 onwards. What the fuck?
He had
some of those players were terrible.
Yeah, 2016 spring, he played on a team, and then he went to LSPL for a while, and then he was gone. But I think there was now I can't, none of these players really jump out to me. I think, like I said, Fire Lolly actually got significantly better.
Yeah.
I kind of disagreed with the call to bring Clearlove back when it was made. I think it was ultimately Clearlove was the better jungler by the end of Worlds. But I think that Fire Lolly actually played extremely well for the time that Clearlove came back. So
you know, I really shouldn't actually deign stupid Reddit comments with the attention that I'm about to give them. But I did see a comment that was like a Kelsey hater, and you can always tell people who are actually not just like anti-fans or they just don't like you. They're true haters, because the thing about a true hater is they can't get anyone else to feel the same hatred for you, because there's something a bit mentally unstable about hating someone on the internet for having a slightly different opinion in an article. So what's great is they always have to come up with creative solutions to say, oh, this person said X, Y, and Z, and they're always like outrageous opinions that no one would have. So I saw there was one that basically said that,
here we go.
That Kelsey, she just thinks that Clearlove's like the best player ever. I was like, come on. Even though, yes, she might have a higher opinion of Clearlove than some other people, I think that is what you might call an unreasonable categorization of her opinion of Clearlove. Come the fuck on, please. Did seem somewhat unreasonable, you know.
It's good. I just don't. I've just decided to stop commenting on those, when possible, because sometimes they just attribute me with good things that I didn't do, like things that, oh, Kelsey predicted this. It's like, yeah, sure, absolutely. So you take the good with the bad, you know. Just nothing is correct. You can't expect anything to be correct. But you can take the good and the bad and just kind of accept it. It's good.
Well, my favorite type of Reddit commenter especially is the ones where, because people like Kelsey actually will directly respond to these people and try and reason with them. What's funny is that it's the ones who do the classic thing where, they say oh, she thinks Clearlove's the best, and then you'll reply actually, I never said that, and then they keep replying, not knowing that it's you that they're actually talking to. They think they go, no, but I actually saw another thing she said, and then everyone else is just like, dude, it's literally the person you're talking to, and then they're like, and then the worst though, this is the thing I really hate though, Kelsey. I would actually, on some very, very low level, respect these people if they just, once they realized they were talking to you, maintained the hatred and the disgusting vile personality they have. Embrace being an orc if you're going to be one, right? Just live with it. You are an orc, right? But they always go like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was you. I actually think you're not pure cancer. You are okay, I guess. I just heard you say in a video once something like that. Sorry. The ones who apologize are like, come on, have a fucking backbone. If you're going to be a hater on the internet, obviously I could speak to this. Go all in. Embrace the fucking dark side. See where it takes you. Don't just give up and apologize. That actually could just be the name of my biography, couldn't it? Don't just give up and apologize. The Thor in the
Give up
story.
and apologize.
How I kept going no matter what. Right, yes. Okay, so anyway, I'm trying to think to pull this back in. So obviously we were talking about RMG there. Probably talked about them enough, quite frankly. Right, a team that you referred to earlier that you actually had some sort of hope for, Kelsey, was Sunning Gaming, which I actually think has quite a fun icon. I like it. It's a little tiger. It's a lion, rather, but it looks quite cool, you know?
We resolved this, apparently. It's because Suning, the company that bought originally T-Bear Gaming, has a lion
Jesus
logo.
Christ, T-Bear Gaming. That just sounds too close to teabag.
Yeah.
Like, don't have a little
That's the
bear
case.
dropping his balls on someone's face. I can't handle that. Please, China, don't do it by accident. Don't, even though you don't know what the reference is, don't do it, please.
They took the bear from T-Bear Gaming,
Okay. Yes.
and they metamorphosed it into a lion, so it's a lion bear, officially.
Wait a minute. But why not just make it a lion? Why does it have to be a lion bear? I don't understand, please.
I like this lineup because I think they took the two, I guess, big rookie players and added in the positions where they were kind
Who are
of
they?
struggling the most, and just
Who are those rookie
made
players, Kelsey?
Tian and Knight. I actually think Hacker is still really good, but like it's good to have like both of them are kind of development players anyway. So this is a very good roster that I could see. Maybe they might not win the LPL this year, but if they have like good direction, then they definitely could be on track to do that next year or something like that. So I feel like this is how you do franchising, right? So I really like.
Do you like the aspect of having Koreans, but as the bot lane?
I think that's it's a theory that people have had that this is like a good way to do the double Korean thing.
Yes.
Is just have them in the bot lane. They can communicate together. Because I remember famously...
Except for H2K, of course. But, you know, aside from them, exceptions to every rule.
I remember famously even that 2015 Fnatic lineup, they said that they communicated in French together and then English with the rest of the team, right? With Yellow Star and Steelback. Yeah. So it's like having a separate comm window open, and then
I like that though, because that means, you know, obviously Febevan was just chilling in the middle, just playing counter picks all day, like whatever, you know, like I'll wait until 25 minutes. Am I needed? He's in his trailer. Am I needed for this game? No, Honey carried it. Okay. And then the bot lane, they're just like fucking Steelback, just like Uni is killing fucking everything. What is he doing? Why is he diving like that? This is madness. And they're like, listen, Steelback, shut the fuck up, bro. You are literally a placeholder, and as soon as Reckless is available, you will be removed.
I can just imagine it being a Ventrilo server, just the bottom lane in their own fucking server, and it's like, oh, we need our fucking jungler. I'm gonna go ping him on the top, like, hey, come bottom lane, please. Just fucking. Now I'm gonna go back to my server.
So there is something, because obviously when you're a bottom lane, you're communicating with each other a lot more. So being able to clearly distinguish, like, this communication is intended for my AD carry, the rest of you don't necessarily have to listen to it, could theoretically have some benefits. But so I think that's there. Also, I think Fury not so much. Yoon has been in China for a while, so and they were a pretty strong performing part of Suning last year as well. So
since so many of the other names are unknown, do you pick any of these people to be a potential breakout, like MVP type character? Like, is Knight going to be the best mid laner or challenge for it?
I think even though I rate Knight and Tian and Hacker really highly as like kind of the new dimensions to the team, Xiao Al is like the guy that is probably the breakout star for me. Just partly because the top lane pool is inconsistent and everything else, but this guy looks really strong and he's able to play like a wide variety of different things. He's done well in carries on tanks, so I like this guy a lot. So
okay, right, Raz, Sunning Gaming, what do you think?
They're going to be the biggest surprise of the split, I think. A lot of people are not really rating them. If anything, they're kind of seen as low tier mid card kind of level. But overall, I kind of echoing the points of Kelsey, that Knight is an exceptional pickup. Like Suning definitely nailed it in figuring out how to kind of win out in off season, because they really only needed to figure out their mid lane. Like their mid lane position was just non-existent. Fen was, I guess, better than Dien, but not by much. It was kind of like a minuscule upgrade. Knight is so much better than that, because when he was on Young Miracles was Knight. Like Knight was this incredible laner at the time, and he even had higher statistics than EasyHoon when they were both playing the LSPL at the time. So I'm really hyped for Knight. I think Knight will do incredibly well, and I wasn't too hyped on Tien initially, just because I was like, well, I really do think Hacker will just be the mainstay. I think Matt Hacker's been on the team for a long time, understands the dynamic with the team, and that he was just an aggressive jungler early on anyways. But that being said, Tien played well, and he didn't play through Knight. He played through Xiao, and that was really what surprised me. I thought Xiao was just like an average to kind of like an okay like top laner, like maybe amazing J level, maybe a little bit below that. But when I see Tien starting to play through top lane, understand like how the 2v1, 2v2 works on that portion of the map, and it felt like he played through Xiao before, like consistently. So Xiao dominated the last set that he had, and I felt like he understood how to play Vladimir incredibly well in team fights. So I'm really excited to see what Xiao can do for the team. I think that Tien surprised me, and that Knight can play better, because he didn't have a good first series, but ultimately I do think that he's an incredibly strong talent.
Okay. So another name that, at least to Westerners, is a big name is LGD, but they've had a lot of changes over the off-season, because they lost, obviously, your old mate Wayless, and even Cool left, and then Acorn has joined now as the head coach, like officially, as opposed to before when he used to just be a player. And then, like my old joke that, like, you know, Flame's like, "Oh, who's playing today, coach?" He's like, "Well, I'm the other player, so me." He's like, "Shit. Well, I'll try again next week." He's like, "Yeah, you do that. Yeah, keep practicing." So, isn't LGD a bit of a depressing team now? Haven't they just kind of gone downhill, split on split?
Yeah.
Now,
It's
yeah. You go for it, Kelsey.
It's kind of sad, because it's a point of pride. Supposed to be a point of pride that Imp and PYL are the longest standing bottom lane in LPL at this point. But it's just, after a point, you're just kind of like, if you love something, you have to let it go, man. Just let them be free.
No, but that's the thing. Imp is like, I'll never let go. Square brackets of this fucking Chinese 6 salary. Keep paying me. I just want that money. I'm already a fucking world champion anyway. Fuck y'all. Like, come on, man. Do you not even want to win anymore? Aside from just win at life, which fair play you doing.
Every once in a while, they do things that it's like, oh, okay, they're excited about this game again. Like the one, I think the new Baron comp that they had a little bit like last summer, I thought was kind of fun, because it's like, obviously they thought about coming up with strategy, and they played through like mid collapse well in that game and everything else. But then there's always a point where something falls off the rails, and you can almost imagine that they start fighting, or something like this happens consistently every game, where it's just like there's this one moment where something breaks and the game disintegrates, and it just happens a lot. So I don't know. It's really hard to ever be excited for this team again.
10 out of 10 times.
Yeah? Is that bot lane good, though?
10 times it happens.
Is that bot lane good?
I don't think anymore. Like
Kelsey, you were one of the people riding so fucking hard for PYL. You and Froscorin were like, I can always tell, right? Because especially back in those old days where you were less precocious, you know, I would always be trying to, I mean, let's face it, I'm just a shit stirrer. So I would always be trying to sort of like be the hype man, like, come on, talk that shit to these Korean motherfuckers. They think their team's good. And I would always be, you know, but I did always try and tell you, like, these back on the whole Wayless and PYL one. Those ones, maybe not. No. Let them test themselves first. So what's gone wrong?
I actually legitimately still think PYL was a really good support talent, and then this team, like when they care about it, it's always really suspect, right? When they used to have relegation, and then LGD are just kind of losing consistently until the last like 2 weeks, and it's like, oh, we better win every game so we don't get automatically relegated. We better stomp the most promising team in promotion.
Okay. So that's like
So
the
that we
scenario
can't
where
get-
you need exactly 40% to not get kicked out of your course, and at the end you're just like, fuck, better pull some all-nighters, right? 39.5, 40%, there you go, I've done it. Which is like, well, you
Exactly.
could have just been good all along, what the fuck are you doing?
So it's like if they give a shit, they actually seem like they're good still, but they just don't play like it most of the time. And then it's just it. Even PYL said, they asked him, why do you think LGD always has this turnaround? And he says, well, we want to save face, right? It's like the Chinese cultural aspect of like, you can't like bring outward shame to your organization. So it's just like, they're literally just trying to avoid public shame. So yeah, it's
all right.
It's kind of depressing when you think about it like that. So yeah.
Is there a bright spot here? Is there anything to believe in? Can Jinwoo bring us back? Is he the source? Raz, come on, please. LGD.
Ooh, I would say it's going to be Acorn, because it had to be the coaching position in a lot of these cases. Because I agree with you that they're lifetime underachievers in a lot of cases. Last year was the only case where I looked at them and I was like, wow, even though they still stumped out Young Miracles, like that was the thing that happened. It wasn't even as convincing to me anymore. I couldn't say that Acorn, like I couldn't say that LGD would have done better in a playoff setting, where I used to always say, they're in promotion tournament, but they really should be in the playoffs, and it would be a lot more competitive. Not even this time around. And they lost cool. So like that is a big loss to them, where now they're just like kind of riding on Yuki and Nanju, like just two unknown rookies that I have never seen before, like not in the LDL or like LSPL.
Nanju was in the
Maybe
EDG, was in the EDG development program. I think he was on Team Fighter for a little bit. But so I think usually if they come from the EDG development program, I have a little bit more hope for them than otherwise, because they seem to at least know what they're doing in terms of developing rookies.
That's true.
So, like EDG has always been fairly good at that. Maybe not getting to them to a point after that sometimes might fall astray, but they're pretty good at like bringing rookies to the LPL level. Okay. So that makes me kind of hopeful for like there are a ton of players on that are just suddenly in LPL this year that are from like Team Fighter or from the EDG development program. So I think that speaks kind of to it. So that makes me somewhat optimistic, but when you feel optimistic about a player and you see that they're on LGD, that just kind of breaks your heart a little at this point. So that's kind of
a little bit. That's why I'm a little bit more hyped, or at least I want to see more out of Acorn, because the change in the coaching staff means so much to me, where it has to be the attitude in game. Because I agreed with you in the sense that I think that PYL is an amazing support talent and has a great mind for the game in the past. But every single time it feels like a lot of the reasons why they collapse in-game, mid-game is because a call is made when no one is in position for it. Like, it will be in position for it in 10 seconds. You can see, like, Amy walking down to the bottom lane for it, and then PYL just starts the fight prematurely. And it's like, well, that's a great idea if you had some patience. Like, but then you still see moments when they go up against EDG and they have incredible Baron set up, all of it set up by PYL, and he's playing Alistar, and he knows where to be. So, like, he knows exactly how they should play out these moments, but a lot of the times they're way too impatient for it, and they just like start these fights and they're like they had a massive lead. That was the case in the Demacia Cup too. They were in the Demacia Cup, not in top 8, but they were there, and they lost out. They lost a game where they had like such a massive early game gold lead. Jingdong should have never gone to top 8 because of that, like based off that. But it's the same game of, well, it's LGD versus Jingdong. So even though they have an early game lead, that's going to falter, and you're just going to see them like clash heads a billion times before the game actually ends. And so it comes to RNG at that point of who actually win these team fights. So I think big case going into this split, are they disciplined from the day one? Like spring split, do you have enough motivation to like play every game as if it like means the world to you, right? Because obviously there's no, what incentive do you have in day one in spring split to be able to play to that level? Technically not enough. But if we see that from them immediately, then that's good. That's good vibes for me. And also, how is Jinwoo developed? Because he's a great talent, but he's one of those players that will mindlessly split push and die 2v1 when his jungler's nowhere near him or nowhere near another objective. So it's like, well, you could have just sat in a bush or something, but you decided that you always need to like Fiora Q up into an enemy's face like at every moment off cooldown. So I think that LGD can be great. It's the same story as the past, but I think it comes down to how seriously do they take it in scrims, how seriously do they take it in regular season. And it's not even a point of seriousness anymore. How disciplined are they?
Also, if I'm not even like when I see an LGD coach change, it's just it must be that time of year again, right? Because they've gone through so many of them, and it doesn't seem to have much of an impact on their game plan. Eventually, get to a part in the season where Imp is first picking Kog'Maw every game, and then that's just the way it ends up being.
Okay, so now we will continue the downward spiral of the LPL by talking about Snake, who is a team where every time I've ever watched this team, I realized a long time ago, like 3 years ago, yeah, they actually had like decent macro and they had like a pretty decent team overall. But the last few years, every time I've ever watched Snake play, it's basically just like the Flandre show, and he's a pretty good player, but I have no idea really. It's another one of those teams where, because they never make worlds, I can't really know where he stacks up. So, like, if anything, haven't they also been a team that had an underwhelming off-season? Like, they didn't really add in any big players or make any kind of big improvements. They've just kind of shed players from last year, right?
I would say the improvements kind of came at the end of summer when they finally got a roster together. I felt like a lot of Snake's problems last year just came from laziness in the scouting department. It's like, yeah, we're going to throw SFM and Crystal on the support row because we don't want to bother to look up the Chinese ladder and pull up the highest ranked support there and give them a tryout. Like, it was really kind of bad. And then they brought Hootie in, who's like actually a dedicated support player.
Maybe that's also the genius that I'm not
Amazing.
understanding about the LPL is that's the reason why other teams just have 3 backup supports. It's like, let's just fucking hoard them all. Then they can't have any supports. Joke's on you. Now you can't have one. I've got them all.
Exactly. But it's so they finally brought Hootie in, and I think that kind of really added life to the team. They also brought in another mid laner. I don't know if like people just got tired of Zetai's up and down shit or what it is, but like eventually this team started to have like an uptick and to look a little bit better. So I think that that's a good starting point for them. Like I wouldn't say that it was a bad decision on their part not to make major changes. I think one of the big things also is that there are 2 languages on this roster now, right? Instead of 3, when they kept trying to have SFM and a Korean player and a bunch of China. Like, I don't think that's going to work, man. Like, it was kind of a hectic team. It was always a mess. They had players coming in, coming out, and so just
Wait, so what are the 2 languages?
Chinese and Vietnamese, because SFM is a Vietnamese show.
Right. Okay.
So they. So
that dude's
I
just
think
playing the game of fucking nightmare mode. Then what are you doing? I'm from Vietnam. Nice. Do you speak Chinese there? Nah, of course not. What are you going to play? LPL? All right. Okay. Well, obviously, you know, a very confident young man, I hope.
I think that helps. So just having some stability and some consistency given their last year, I think is actually a good move than making a better move than making a major roster change. So I'm okay with what Snake decided to do. So.
Okay. Right, Raz, is this the split where I get to see Flandre potentially go to the top?
I think this team will go farther, 100%, just because, to your point, yes, a lot less languages to communicate in now. You don't even have, like, the random Korean that you have to be able to, like, adjust to, like, for instance, like, either having tank or OQ. And I think they have, like, a tank-style mid laner now that can speak Chinese, which is an incredible upgrade to communication for the team. And so that's what it came down to. When it came down to the small adjustment that they made was Zetai and Guokwo. I think Guokwo is, like, I would say that he fits the team incredibly well. Like, they just need a stable mid laner that can play team fighting, and he does exactly that. And he plays team fights really well as well. Vladimir, Oriana, like those kind of mid lane picks that he's gone towards and done incredibly well with. I'm impressed, and I think that is a definite upgrade rather than the usual, like the last kind of style that they have, which was you have LeBlanc, you have Camille, and you have two lanes. You just top lane and bottom lane, and you see what happens, and you just have like a massive clash. Now it feels like their team fighting isn't so haphazard. I think that their team fighting has gotten much better.
Okay. Right. Some of these other teams, quite frankly, don't need too much attention, so we'll try and pick out the ones that are worth talking about. So, do you care at all, you referenced them earlier, about Pepper's team, which is Fun Plus Phoenix, which is a classic, those are all 3 words, correct? Those are all English words, they all work.
Yeah.
Together they mean nothing, but, fair play. That's what you do. And what I love especially is the way they've done on the logo. It says Fun Plus and then just X.
I mean, you'll like this because you're a big fan of the NALCS team ownership kerfuffle. Allegedly,
they own like 5 teams or something.
Allegedly, FunPlus and Cloud9 are linked. Like FunPlus has some investment in Cloud9, so. But okay. I do like this roster actually. I liked Suning and I liked FunPlus quite a bit in terms of the setup that they have. You have Pepper, who I actually thought was I would have gone in the Pepper direction on RNG. He was like the emergency sub brought in for a while. He eventually became the funny story where, MLXG is sick. He can't play. Okay, so which sub are you putting in? They're sick. All 4 of them are sick. So we're bringing in this guy, Yeehan.
Fucking hell. Why are the alibis so shit? Come on, think of something better than that. Not only that, you had 4 people who could put their heads together and figure out a better alibi than that. Sorry, sir. The dog ate all of our homework in a row. Like, shut the fuck up. Come on, what's this? Like, just say you don't want to play. Just say you're trying someone new. Why are you making lies up? It's ridiculous.
So that was his introduction to the LPL, but I think he's really good at identifying like when mid is pushing or when mid he can make a play off of a wave. Like he's really, really good at picking that out, finding the enemy jungler, like doing this kind of more aggressive style. And he said he wanted to change his name to Pepper because his play style is impulsive and spicy. So
okay, at least that makes sense. That's thematic. I like it.
There you go.
Obviously, Meteos, their team that they used to be, partnered with Cloud9, will be changing his name to Salty. For similar reasons. His career, You should have done that fucking interview with me like 4 years ago, mate. I gave you a chance. Anyway, just settling old scores. The other name for my other biography, the second chapter in my biography there, Raz. Settling scores inappropriately. Right, what about Bing then? Is he any good?
Oh, you want me to go on this one? All right, geez, okay.
Yeah.
And does everyone on the LPL broadcast go ham with that name? Do you just work with it all day long? Oh, well, I guess they didn't spend a lot of time searching for a good mid laner. Anyway.
Bing is just the unknown kind of quantity when it comes to Fun Plus. Because Fun Plus has great, like we talked about, the jungle, like Yeehan's great or Pepper's great. I mean, Gimgoon is excellent, but Bing, we've seen Bing before on Sane. And that was a pretty poor career in the sense. So we've seen what kind of style he has, and he can play really well. He has those he has good points. But that's the thing about I want to see more about his consistency. Is that I don't want to see him just kind of feed and then not play back. You know what I mean? When if he's doing poorly in a lane, I want to see him kind of relax a little bit rather than consistently trying to challenge mid lane jungle. So that's one of my biggest peeves with Bing is that he just continues to force plays, especially if he's behind. But that's my big question is that Bing, because I think otherwise this roster looks great. LWX and Krebs, we've seen them before. Topside is incredible as well. This team is going to be challenging teams. In fact, last night we even saw them challenge EDG. Sure, they lost out to them, but they looked good. Bing was the only player that I felt could need an upgrade.
Let's put it this way. There is a faction of Acorn fans that think that Bing is single-handedly responsible for the end of his playing career. So, because they were both on Saint Gaming. So there are very vocal Bing haters. I think that this guy can be a good player. And if he can find a level of consistency, we just talked about how their side lanes are pretty good. They've got a strong jungler. So a jungler that will play very well off of him just pushing lanes. So I think that this is a good setup for him to kind of like find himself. So we'll see because it's really hard to judge players for being on like terrible teams that only win one game, right?
Yeah.
So it's really kind of a raw deal for players like that. So I always kind of try to keep an open mind.
Okay.
I agree.
What do you think of Vici Gaming then? Because this is the team where they're one of those teams that, for the amount of money they've spent over the years, what the fuck have they gotten back for it? Like, do you even understand the concept of return on investment? Like, you can spend the money, yes. You're supposed to get something back for it later. Like, it's not just free. It's not charity, you know. I mean, I guess they are in a way. It's like a summer. Well, it won't be a summer vacation for Koreans. It's fucking summer camp where your parents just drop you off. And you're like, fuck no, please, I want to come home. And they're like, no, sorry, honey, you've got to stay there for 3 years or weeks. So in this team, obviously we have Easy Hoon, one of the top 2 or 3 mid laners in the entire world. Spring 2015, copyright Fion. Yep, that's right. Never going to forget that one. You have Crash, who people recently saw obviously was on loan to Fenerbahce and actually looked pretty decent when he was playing at Worlds there. And what if you're Fenerbahce is a ridiculous group, but obviously that is the group that you should be in if you're Fenerbahce. And always I thought looked like a pretty decent player when he was over a Longju, etc. Is this a team that has any potential?
I think they're going to be about the same as they were last time they were in LPL. Like, Crash is probably more stylistically consistent with what VG Gaming wanted to do with Dandy. But I don't know. This team is probably just going to lose every early game again and then try to have some like crazy comeback with Vlad and maybe win a couple of games that way. But I don't know. I just don't see them having that much more dimension. I know you were really excited about Crash and you wrote that article about how he was going to springboard VG Gaming back into relevance, but I'm not feeling it yet.
Is he going to do it? You haven't stopped believing.
Crash, and I think Crash is a really good push, right? And good, incredibly good push of having a style for their team. But then I look to their lanes and I still have that same feeling that I had with Vici Gaming way back, where it's just like, well, what is their main carry point? Could be Long, except they don't tend to want to play him ever. Like, that's like the major issue, is that it's like, it feels like the team is, there's no consistent like lineup, because they always have some random sub that they would rather put in as well. They don't have Onion anymore, thankfully, but it's just like, they'll always have someone else now named Meow, who will play top lane instead. So I just want to see consistency out of the lineup. And even though Martin and Caveman, their bottom lane still has a lot to prove, I think in the LSPL they played very well, but that's against LSPL talent. And the LPL lineups in the AD carry position will definitely match him. So it needs to be a team level of, okay, you have Martin Caveman in the bottom lane. Long could be your top laner that can carry if you play him consistently. So if they don't do that, then they will struggle in their own conference, and they will try and fight for mid card to low tier. But if they keep this lineup and consistently improve on it in the season, I think they can. Let's see, which division are they in? East or West? That's my question now.
I believe they are in the.
I'm gonna check right now.
They're in the top one, so the Group A, whatever the fuck, the super stacked one, basically.
The one with.
Oh yeah, they're in. Yeah, they're in West. Yeah,
the one that's like the
okay.
One.
Yeah, they're gonna be on bottom. they're gonna be around fifth place or something, because I just feel like that was already a difficult group. EDG, WE, OMG, Snake, Fun Plus. Yeah, they're gonna. I think those teams have an edge on them of having a style that they can play towards and talent that they can do it with. So Vici, they're going to struggle. I loved some of their talent, and I still do, but how they work together isn't there yet.
I have a quick anecdote about Long, because you said that they could play to him, but they never play him. I remember interviewing him, and I told him, some Western fans think that you could be like a really sick kind of carry player. And he just kind of looked at me like he was shocked, and he'd never heard this before. And he was like, really? That kind of gives you this impression. So
it's always also like that in LPL. The players who are actually good are the ones who are like, I am racked with insecurity and lack of confidence. Then some fucker like TBQ's like, I'm actually the best jungler, and you're like, get this guy the fuck out of here. Are you here to trigger me? What are you doing? It's mad, isn't it? It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect gone does the LPL. That would be the name of a fucking great series. Maybe that's what I should have called this series then. Yeah, that would be the name of the LPL one, right? Dunning-Kruger does the LPL. Okay, so we're down to the last couple of names now, and I've purposely saved this one till now because first of all, who gives a fuck? And secondly, the name of this team is like what you would think the generic name of an esports team in like an esports.
Oh no, don't say it.
And in like an esports like visual novel would be if someone joined a team, it would be like Top Sports Gaming. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what even is that? Again, you picked a load of words that mean something, but together they somehow mean less than they meant apart. Like Top Sports Gaming, right? This is a team where, okay, you ready, guys? We're going to start with the big names. Goon, yeah, he's still playing. No, I know, yeah. 2 or 3 years ago. No, he's back. He's back, boys. He was over in other regions. He's come to LPL now. I won't say he's coming for that sick money because I can't imagine he's getting paid sick money, but he's coming for some money. And is it well spent? What do you think of this team? Because I don't know half these players.
Okay, before even just the top, like that whole, like the naming scheme, I commentated their game yesterday, and I said every iteration of it because I was like, TOP, Top Sports, Top Esports. It's just the most generic thing. I absolutely despise the naming scheme. That's just something else. But yeah, the team is it's the same old Dan Gaming. It's just weird. Like they just lack talent in every scenario. Karin is probably their best player along with Cat. So that alone, those are their 2 best players, and they're immediately outmatched by about like 5 players in the LPL. Says a lot about their talent.
You do have a point there. If your team did used to be called Dan Gaming, then it's like someone's like, come on, you've got to get a better name than that. It's so generic. It's just, and they were like, okay, well, what do we want to do as a team? I mean, we want to be the top sports gaming team. And then they were like, okay, there you go. I handed him a form, and they were like, what do you mean? They go, well, there you go. It's registered trademark. No, I just meant that's what I wanted to be. What the fuck? I was trying to think up something wacky like Fun Plus Phoenix X or whatever the fuck. Then again, though, just to be fair with the criticism, over in Korea right now, one of the best teams is called fucking Kingzone Dragon X, like the name of a fucking SNES game or something. What are you talking about? What are you doing? Why is this a thing? Anyway, come on, Kelsey. Then, what do you think of this team?
It's even worse when you realize Dan literally just means egg. So it's a good name.
No.
But Cho and Cat was a bottom lane that I was originally excited about, but because I thought that they did very well in LSPO and then they had like a decent debut. But then, I don't know, this team had played a very specific style. They went to Baron all the time. They said that they had like almost this weird, like, I was born of the Baron, kind of speech in one of their press conferences. And like, we understand the Baron on the fundamental cellular level or something like this. But it was just very easy to read after a certain point. And then it became clear that they didn't have anything else after that. Mm-hmm. And so I don't even want to say that this is just all an outpaced talent problem. I think it's just an outpaced strategic problem where they just don't know what to do, and they haven't really thought very far after that. Because even in the game that they played, like you said, you commentated yesterday, they weren't really showing anything new. So I just don't think that they have a lot of mileage left in the tank for that sort of behavior.
Yeah, you're right in the sense that like strategy was a main thing of them. They don't even have BSYY anymore. And like a big point of like was like, oh, well, we can play around Baron very well. Every LPL team can play around Baron very well. And you know what? They can set up around it even better than you guys can too. So it's like when your main strength was just rushing it at 20 or just being decisive as a team, and other teams just get better around communication, because that was around the time where Dan was just the most cohesive team and every other team was just kind of getting shit together. Then they just got cohesive, and suddenly there was just everything was challenging Dan, now Top Sports Gaming. They're just challenging their macro, challenging their vision control, challenging just like how smart they are as a team, and they didn't have that. Maybe they can get better at that, but at a player for player like rundown, once they do, then it just comes down to a point of talent.
See, one of the things about their team that I wanted to ask you about in that sense was, I remember when they were Dan Gaming, I like, this is one of those ones where I'm just looking across something and I was like, what? I remember seeing that their coach was actually like nominated for Coach of the Year in the LPL awards. So did they look like a team who were well coached?
Yeah.
Not really.
Oh, damn, we have different opinions. Okay.
Like, I don't know. There are a lot of differing opinions on BSYY. I haven't talked to a player. Granted, I haven't asked any of the Dan Gaming players about him, but I haven't talked to a player that's been coached by him that had like a really positive thing to say about him. And obviously, that's kind of a consistent thing among players. But it was almost to the point where they didn't even know if he did much at all. Like, usually players will at least say, yeah, he was good. He brought like picks and bans from other teams to us, and we looked at those types of strategy and those types of analyst reports. And it's like, I remember asking PYL about Hart and to compare Hart to some of his previous coaches, and he said, I don't think I've had a coach before. It's so I've just never really heard people say like really, really good things about BSYY. So for me, I'm not sure. And then the fact that they had one specific style or one specific game plan and they could never really evolve beyond that makes me just feel like this team was not well coached at all. So
yeah, I think to that point we can agree. But ultimately, like, to a fundamental level, it's almost impossible to kind of like hit on coaching strength unless if you communicate with like the team themselves, because it's like so hard to realize like, well, is this like a really well coached team and he's just like the team just doesn't have it, or is he like a really bad like coach and the team just has that strategy because Cat's just like shot caller and game like, this, do this, we're doing this now. But the reason why I said that I thought that BSY was a good coach was just like, I guess the assumption, because the team ultimately, if I don't feel like the talent is proper, then I do think that there is cheese that needs to be involved. Like, there needs to be that one strategy, maybe 2-3 strategies. I remember when Snake came into the LPL, they needed to have something for themselves to be able to compete at a top level. And I felt like Dan came into the LPL and they just shocked a lot of teams, getting to first place in what was an impossible group just based off of that strategy. And I was like, that's great. And sure, I wanted them to evolve. And I think that during the cross conference, when they just started subbing every fucking player in existence out of the lineup for anybody, even Moyu, that was just so questionable. So in that sense, in terms of evolving, they didn't do that right. Like, in terms of growth, they didn't do that right. But just in terms of like being able to go farther than they probably should have, then I think that they did just the strategy. And I kind of attribute that to BSYY, and maybe we get to test that to see if that's the case, and maybe they're still the same team. But ultimately, that's why it's suspect to kind of pin it on the coach, but I suppose I did. And I think that we'll have to see if that's the case until we maybe like interview more players.
I mean, it's hard to pin anything specifically on the coach. It's just that, like, you asked me if this team looks well coached, and it just doesn't. I mean, I think they came up with a gimmick as a group, and they had some. I'll give that. I think they were really smart about when to do rotations from bottom lane. So I think that was something that they had going for them. But in general, this just seemed like a really awkward team that went under a decisive shot caller. Like, I would say Cat was probably a decisive shot caller. And they made quick movements based on that, and that won them some initial games. But other than that...
Okay. So the last team I have left is JD Gaming. Now, I realise since they have the other team in the LSPL called Joy Dream, presumably that's what the name comes from, right? But obviously when I saw JD Gaming and this utterly terrible, like, forget every other icon we've joked about, a name, etc. This is one of the worst icons and logos I've ever seen, because I can only assume Jaunty Devil is the real secret name of JD Gaming. Because why is there just a devil with sort of one fang poking out? And that's just it. Like, what does that represent in gaming? Like, why? Explain this to me for a start off. In Chinese League of Legends, where, like, you know, they had to like censor it, and like they had to, we've got to be careful of what we can show in the game of violence and stuff. Why are you picking the fucking devil? Why is he the logo? If it's very sensitive, why is the literal devil the fucking icon?
So it's the company is Jingdong Gaming. Okay. Yeah. And they they're like a major mega online retailer, kind of like Amazon.
So the Amazon in China has the devil representing them.
Their logo is actually a dog, and if you look closely at it, you can see it has like a dog nose, and it has like short dog floppy ears there, and then it has devil horns for some reason. So it's a riff on
well, my mistake then. It's just a dog with devil horns. And also, by the way, a little beard that's shaped like one of those pitchforks that a devil would have. Well, you know what, Kelsey? I feel like I've made a fool out of myself now. How silly I was not to see that. What the fuck?
Well, I'm just trying to explain what I think they were thinking of. I don't know. Right. But so I think this lineup is I actually like this lineup just fine. I think you've got like a decent top laner and a decent mid from LSPL to sort of replace like Kabi and Doingby. You stuck with a main bottom lane, which was a problem that they had. And so hopefully they can have more dimension than just literally let Doingby do what he wants, and this team can go higher than the last iteration of the roster. But I don't think it'll be like a top team or anything like this. So
yeah, I initially thought they were going to be like a bottom tier team, especially looking at their earlier Demacia Cup performance, where it was just a lot of Clid forcing team fights on Sejuani, and I was like, well, where's the depth in that? But I like, especially because I looked at the LSPL talent, and I wasn't too high on Yagao, just because like he isn't a top mid laner, and he's going into a pretty rough spot. So like being able to learn the ropes competitively, like on a top in the Premier League, I thought it was gonna be rough for him. I did love Zoom though. I thought Zoom was a really good ad, but it was a good value add when I felt like that lane didn't need a value add, because Kabe was a really strong top laner. So it was like, it's great, but the trade-off is still like, well, you're still left with this team now. So they're a team that's just very green, needs a lot more time. That's about it. I don't think they'll go far. I think they'll just battle for mid card and see where they go at, and see. I always have to like reference back to what region or what group they're in. They're in the East region, so it looks better for them actually. It looks like they'll probably look for 4th place, maybe 5th.
I actually am probably a bit higher on Yagao than you are. But I agree with you that they kind of, to an extent, hung Kabi out to dry, and I'm worried that because Kabi was like was the top laner in LSPL in his era, and then Zoom kind of became that they'll do a very similar thing with Zoom, and Zoom will end up just like only playing one specific style of split pushing tank, and then they'll do super early lane swaps and try to do collapses behind Baron again every game. So
hey, it might change this time, because who's going to take that wave if Doinby is not in the team? So I think this time around there can be some actual depth in the strategy.
Yeah, so I'm hoping, like, that's kind of my hope, is that Doinby is gone. I actually think Yagao has a pretty good room to grow. So, and that maybe they can actually tailor him to fit the team rather than tailoring the team to fit the mid laner this time around. So, see what happens.
Okay, right. To close up the show, what we'll do is we'll play a prediction version of the non-rigged version of the LPL Awards, where unlike the LPL Awards, where it's just beyond politically corrupt, and they just give out some awards and nominees that are just like, what is going on here? We're going to predict, and we're just going to predict not based on the premise of like, you know, who actually will win or what criteria would make you, just who you think actually would be this person. So who will be, Raz, the MVP of this split of LPL? Who are you going to pick?
Ooh, I'll go
just for your money.
I'll go Rookie. I think Rookie will be in. Rookie for the last few seasons probably would have gotten an MVP if his team was anywhere near the finals, and I think they're good enough as a team to be that kind of team, so he'll get that recognition.
Okay. Kelsey, who are you picking?
I think for me, let's see. It's a good one.
Because, I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, anyone who's seen me in other games, by the way, actually, I personally don't buy the idea that, your team has to be the top for you to be the MVP. Like, that's the whole point. In fact, sometimes you can tell the guy's the MVP, but in fact, he's so fucking good on a team that isn't that good normally. So I would have had Rookie as the MVP of a few of the last splits as well. So who are you going to go with, Kelsey? Is there a Chinese player?
They actually think Doinby won split, even though he, I think actually...
Enough said, yes.
Yeah. I think... I want to go with Xiaohu again. I actually feel like he's the best player in the LPL right now. He actually had an amazing first set, even though he was getting pushed in the first game. Like, he made the other two matchups, like the Taliyah into Ryze, he made the Ryze look like he was just supposed to win that matchup anyway. And then he was just always where he needed to be. And I don't know, that champion is so gross right now, but it was just terribly disgusting when he played it. Mm-hmm. So I think I don't know. I feel really good about Xiaohu right now. So, and I feel like if RNG are going to continue to do the rotating door, like they just signed Zatai top, for God's sake. Yeah. So if they're going to continue to rotate out their junglers and their top laners and their AD carries like they did last split, that creates a very easy way for both Xiaohu and Ming, who it seems they really want to be the core of the roster, to shine. So I think that he could make an easy case for a 2-time MVP. So
okay,
yeah,
right. Instead of most improved player, I'll just do this one. Who do you think will end up having been the most underrated player? Like, who are people not necessarily looking at now, but this guy could just blow up completely?
Oh damn, that one's hard. I'll say Chelly. Chelly from
really?
OMG. Because, yeah, because I think Chelly is already going to be filling some massive shoes with SMLZ, and I really did like him on Game Talents. It was when he was in the LSPL. I felt like he was a very strong hard carry player, and so even though people will be always looking to, it's not an SMLZ, he ain't an SMLZ, but I think he's going to play to the same strength of SMLZ. Maybe fill that gap, but people won't really recognize that because they were already on the hate train to start.
So even though I'm not really super high on the roster, I actually do think Yagao could be really good. Like, I actually liked watching him on Mall 7 Club, for example. So I'll use Yagao as my sleeper blow up player. There you go.
Okay.
There we go.
And I will just, as usual, treat this in a flippant manner by saying maybe this is the split where Easy Hoon, for once in his career, could be a world-class mid laner.